the same page, because it's very obvious that people will get grazed in the helmet with a finger, and there'll be a flag for it if the quarterback's in the pocket.
Cough, Tom Brady?
Exactly. Then that's not going to happen for Cam just because he's big.
I mean,
exactly.
That's kind of across the board with sports, though. You look at the NBA, and some players
get
calls
LeBron
and other
gets
players.
all of the calls,
and then you have players like Carmelo who doesn't get called. It doesn't get a call for nearly anything, or Jeremy Lin who doesn't get a call for anything, even though they get mauled every time they go to the basket. As far as the Dez catch, it comes down to the football move and what that is. It certainly looked to me like he was going for the touchdown, and personally, I would call that a catch. I would call that a football move to stretch for the end zone as he's taking the 2 steps. But the NFL apparently doesn't, and that's another one of their main issues. There's too many gray areas. They need to define some things. They need to define what a football move is. You're telling me that with all the money the NFL makes, they can't get a panel of experts together and list every football move that could be considered? There's only so many movements a person could make.
There are 3 people that should sit down in a room together and get this pounded out, and it would be the best possible situation.
Us?
Theoretically, yes. But no. Number 1, Terry McAuley. Number 2, Bill Cowher. Number 3, Bill Parcells. Get those 3 in a room to pound all this out, and you would have the perfect set of NFL rules. Perfect.
I could dig it.
Are there any other things that the NFL could do that you would want to see? If not, it's fine. I have one thing.
I have a pretty major thing.
What is that?
It's regarding safety. It's regarding concussions. They do not do nearly enough to address it, even though they're finally getting pressure to. The movie Concussion came out, and that's been a huge thing. But, you have all these long-term consequences for players that are losing their minds.
I still don't know what CTE is.
Right. It's barely defined.
I know it's bad.
Yeah.
I know Junior Seau.
And we just lost another one whose name is escaping me right now. And it just so happened that the Tom Brady jersey story superseded the news of
just
he's famous for the catch. Dave.
Oh, Clark.
Yes.
Yeah, Clark.
He was just diagnosed with it, and
yeah,
just so happens another football story.
No, I thought he was ALS. I thought he was Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh, I might be
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah, his is Lou Gehrig's disease.
In which case, that's my fault. However, CTE is still a major issue. There's too many concussions. The concussion protocol does not last long enough. These people that get a concussion should be out for at least one game at
least minimum. A play. Matt Moore.
Right.
In that playoff game?
They need to, and some concussion symptoms don't come about right away. You might not know you have a concussion until a couple hours later.
If your helmet spins around, you should be out for more than a play.
Right, and they need to pump way more funding into helmet research. They're putting some funding in, but there's no reason that they couldn't easily triple what they're putting in now.
Yeah, you're right, especially when you charge teams like the Raiders. Or the Rams, the Chargers, $700 million to move.
Right. Why can't that go into helmet or neck stabilizer research?
There's technology out there.
Yeah, NASCAR.
Toyota was working with a helmet provider using their airbag system as a way of seeing how they could insulate the helmets better to protect against blows. But there was also I forget what it was called, but it gives a new definition to lighting somebody up. But there's actually a electronic device that could be attached to the helmet that when a certain level of force is hit directly upon it, the light would change from green to red, which would give more indication into something like this. So there's got to be, with the amount of money they have, there has to be other avenues of technology that can be researched to protect these players.
Right.
Because for every player we know of that has CTE, this was a violent game and a lot more violent prior to as it is now. There has to be more people that aren't coming out with this either because they do not know or because they, for own privacy reasons, obviously not everybody has to explain it, but the number has to be a lot higher than we know.
Right. And I think a way that you eliminate that, and it's something that I was going to talk about my one big rule change. In college football, there's this penalty called targeting. What that is if you leave your feet lunge toward a player and you hit them neck or above, it gets automatically reviewed by the referee. If it's shown to be a malicious lunge while you leave your feet toward the neck or head, that's a 15-yard penalty, and that player is ejected.
I think that could help. Another thing that's shown some promise, because there's equipment, there's helmets, there's neck stabilizers like NASCAR has, that wouldn't work in the current form because it's a contact sport, but there could be applications. There's mandating mouth guards, which the NFL hasn't done because they don't want to admit that they haven't done that.
Buckling chin straps completely.
Right. The players should be fined, or the refs should be paying attention to this. There's also helmetless drilling. When players are practicing, they should run drills where they're practicing tackling without helmets and tackling techniques to, properly wrap up. I think the Seahawks were doing some rugby-style tackling, and they learned a lot about wrapping up. And there have been results.
At the NFL level, you should know how to tackle.
Right, but
you should. But look at how many players just rely on big hits and don't ever wrap up.
But I think that starts where the NFL was heading in the heads-up program. I think that's genius. I actually was looking into being a pop learner coach, and you have to be heads-up certified before you can be a pop learner coach now in this day to teach the proper technique of tackling. Obviously, you hope that extends and it goes from there to the high school to the college and so forth with leading that. But there's nothing saying that every coach is going to lead that way. There are going to be other coaches that teach you other techniques. And furthermore, you've got to see the cause and effect that these have, because focusing so much on head injuries, one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of knee injuries now because people are so afraid to go high that they're now going low, mm-hmm. and there's very little protection.
And they don't wear knee pads. Like, that's not even... There's no way there are knee pads when you have teams where players have, like, the short style and you can see their knees. There's no way they have knee pads on.
I mean, you could even wear knee pads and it's violent, because Louis McGahee's knee turned into Jello in the national championship game. I mean, he was wearing knee pads.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was just going low on a head. That was before the NFL was really getting called out on the CTE problem. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more of those leg injuries too. So in a violent game such as football, safety is a tough issue.
It is. It absolutely is.
It really is. Let's move on from the NFL now. Let's go to the NBA. The one big issue that I'm sure we all have is sitting players. Now, I understand players get hurt, players need rest, players need time off. They're just like everyone else. But it's not fair for someone who spent $200 on a ticket to go see the Cleveland Cavaliers without LeBron James, without Kevin Love, and without Kyrie Irving. Or back in the day, the Spurs without Tim Duncan, without Manu Ginobili, without Tony Parker. Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, has identified this as an issue. If you were Adam Silver, how would you correct this?
There's a couple of things that could possibly be done. One argument I've heard is having fewer games in the season instead of, 82?
82.
Yeah, it's 82.
Reduce that by 20 games, eliminate back-to-backs. Players, wouldn't be as broken down. There would be fewer injuries due to just, overstressing different joints, etc. And it would make each game worth more, so that there would be less incentive to rest toward the end of the season, because teams would be vying for better seeds more frequently and wouldn't be so inclined to rest.
Yeah, but the argument against the vying for better seeds is that the Cleveland Cavaliers would 100% be comfortable being the 8th seed. They don't care. They'll walk into anywhere, and they're positive that they'll win the game. So I don't think for teams like Cleveland or teams like San Antonio or the Rockets or Golden State that the seeding is an issue. Yeah, it's nice to say we're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, but I mean,
get that extra home game. I think you're not valuing that, because I think there absolutely is a home field advantage in the NBA more than.
Who's going to challenge the Cavaliers? Who do they have to worry about?
It's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier playing are vying for the number 1 seed in the East now.
It's a lot easier to play in front of your home crowd when you need the noise to be on your side versus against your side.
In a Game 7,
especially down the way. And look at these arenas now. They don't seem very packed. I mean, they certainly don't when watching a Knicks game. But
they sell out all the time. Yeah,
they still.
They're
do.
just quiet.
Well, there's not much to cheer for. The thing that I've noticed though is when you see these playoff teams, like the atmosphere in like Oklahoma City or Golden State or Cleveland, there's definitely an advantage to having those people in that building on your side. You can see it. I'm amazed that you don't see it in the camera movements as much as you probably should.
That
might be due to technology.
Well, yeah, most likely.
The Western Conference is different because I'm not positive that Golden State could walk into Houston, could walk into San Antonio, and win 4 games. I'm confident that the Cavaliers can walk into Boston and win it. I'm confident that...
I don't think it would be as easy as you think if Boston had the potentially 4 home games.
All they need to do is win 1. They don't need to win 4 in Boston. They need to win 1.
That's 1 harder, though. It's 1 extra game if it does go to 7.
That being said, he's right. You get it out of the way early. That's 1 game and say it's out of the way. So,
yeah.
I mean,
the Western Conference is a different animal. The Eastern Conference, there's one team that I think could really take it to the Cavaliers because they match up so well, and that's Toronto. But the Celtics, they're not worried about the Celtics. They're not worried about the Wizards. They could walk into Washington and leave with a sweep. I'm confident of that. They could walk into Boston and leave with a sweep. I'm confident of that.
I'm not confident.
I
don't think
they
it'll be a
could.
sweep. I think they'll take
I
the
don't know.
series.
TD Garden's got a lot of history built there.
Underrating Boston and the bit of resurgence they're having.
Trust me, I love Isaiah Thomas. I have him on my fantasy team. I love Isaiah Thomas. And by the way, just a little plug, Tony and I are 1-2 in our fantasy league. So
I think with a combined 3 losses between us.
Yeah, he beat me twice. I beat him once, he beat me once, and I lost 1 week because I just
You lost
forgot.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Going back to what the actual topic was of time off, I think you have to strike an agreement. I don't know that you necessarily decrease the league because I don't think you decrease the games. 82 games has been what it's been for a long time. And injuries, physicality, I mean, we could bring that up, but going back to the era of Jordan and against the bad boy Pistons, there was way more physicality back then, and Jordan was playing all 82 games.
The only person I want to hear anything about physicality with the Pistons with is Ron Artest.
Rodman.
The argument people make, though, about LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, yeah, Michael Jordan played all 82 games, but LeBron James has played more minutes already than Michael Jordan has in his career.
And I understand that. And the minutes can be an argument that you have there. I think you're going to have to come to an agreement because I don't think there's any way that the NBA is going to want to limit their games. Why would you want to take away things that are going to generate money?
Exactly.
So I don't see that as being a possibility.
You'd also have to pay the players less, and they're not going to have that.
Right, and they're not going to want that. So I think your best bet to appease the fan base and to appease the players as well who may want these times, there's obviously unforeseen things, illness that happens. Injury is one thing. There's already a protocol in place if somebody's injured, and that's the way that it should be based on an injury because you can't stop that. Now, if it's rest or sickness, I think you treat it like a normal job. Give them 5 days out of the year that you can take off a night because you're tired, and give them 3 more in case you get ill.
That's the exact number that I came up with, 77 games. You are contracted for 77 games. Or the other option that I came up with, because I was thinking about maybe you do it, contract like you get paid this much per game. What about players like Chase and Randall who don't get in the game? So he's not going to get paid even though he was in suit, or he was suited up and ready to go. I mean, then you can make the argument, well, if they're ready to go, they're active, and they just don't play, then coach's decision, they still get paid. But then you would just see guys like Greg Popovich say, okay, well, they're coming. Coach's decision, they're not playing. So that's a difficult thing. The only thing that I see that would really benefit the fans would be if you go to a game and the stars aren't playing, and we all can agree on who the stars are. If you go to let's just use Cleveland because they're the best example. If you don't have Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, or LeBron James, everyone there gets their money back. Money on tickets, money on, and not just on the tickets, on concessions as well.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
The realistic one, if teams are, quote unquote,